Some destinies don't begin with a heartbeat. They begin with a howl. Before we continue, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you believe in courage and destiny, hit like and subscribe. These stories remind us, love finds the broken. Now, back to Evelyn Carter. The first sound Evelyn Carter heard was not thunder. It was something older. Something that echoed through the darkness like an ancient promise whispered beneath a blood-red moon. She jolted awake, her chest rising in uneven breaths as cold sweat soaked the linen beneath her. The tiny attic room was exactly as she remembered. The slanted wooden ceiling, the cracked window overlooking endless pine trees, the faded quilt her late grandmother had stitched by hand. Yet nothing felt familiar anymore. A sharp ache spread through her ribs. Another followed. Then another. She pressed trembling fingers against her chest, convinced she was having a nightmare, until she felt it. 2 heartbeats. One steady, one wild. The second pulse crashed through her body with frightening strength, each beat carrying a warmth that raced beneath her skin like liquid fire. Outside, every dog in the village began barking. The horses screamed inside their stables. Birds burst from the forest in black waves against the crimson sky. Evelyn stumbled toward the window. The moon hung impossibly large above the mountains, glowing with an eerie scarlet light she had never seen before. As she reached for the window frame, pain exploded through her hands. She gasped. Her fingers lengthened. Nails darkened into curved claws before shrinking back as quickly as they had appeared. "No," she whispered, stumbling backward. "This can't be happening." Another wave hit harder. Her hearing sharpened until she could distinguish the crackling fireplace 2 houses away, the whisper of leaves dancing across distant branches, and frightened voices gathering outside. They saw the light. Someone's cursed. The forest spirits have awakened again. Every word reached her with impossible clarity. She covered her ears, but the sounds only grew louder. A strange scent drifted through the open window. Rain, pine, wildflowers, and something else. Someone she had never met, yet whose scent stirred a longing so deep it made her chest tighten. Instinct urged her toward the forest. Reason begged her to stay hidden. Before she could decide, violent knocking shook the front door below. Evelyn. Her adoptive father's voice cracked with fear. "Open the door." She hurried toward the staircase, but halfway down another surge ripped through her body. Her knees slammed against the wooden steps. Golden light flickered beneath her skin. A low growl escaped her throat. She froze in horror. That sound hadn't belonged to a human. The front door burst open. Villagers flooded inside, carrying lanterns, pitchforks, and silver charms hanging from trembling hands. "Elias," one elderly woman whispered, refusing to step farther into the house. "Your daughter, did you hear it?" Silence answered. Then another growl echoed from the staircase. Dozens of frightened eyes lifted toward Evelyn. She stood frozen beneath the flickering lantern light, tears filling her pale blue eyes as tiny silver veins shimmered across her hands before fading once more. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Finally, the oldest hunter lowered his crossbow, his weathered face turning as pale as ash. "She isn't possessed." His voice barely rose above a whisper. "She's awakening." The room erupted in terrified murmurs. "A werewolf? Impossible. There hasn't been one born outside the royal packs in generations." Evelyn stared at their frightened faces, unable to understand why they looked at her as though she had suddenly become a monster. "I don't know what's happening," she pleaded, her voice shaking. "I swear, I'm still me." But the second heartbeat thundered louder. Far beyond the village, hidden behind layers of mist and towering mountains, another man opened his silver eyes at the exact same moment. He stood silently upon a stone balcony overlooking an ancient kingdom wrapped beneath moonlight. A single wolf howled somewhere in the darkness. Then another. Within seconds, hundreds answered together. The young prince slowly turned toward the southern horizon. His calm expression hardened with quiet certainty. "So," he murmured, "after all these years, you've finally awakened." By sunrise, the entire village feared the girl who had spent 21 years fearing herself. The whispers followed Evelyn Carter long before anyone dared look into her eyes again. Cursed, moon-touched, wolf blood. Every word landed like another stone against her heart. She stood alone behind the small cottage where her adoptive father had raised her, staring at the trembling reflection in the rain barrel. Pale skin, windswept chestnut hair, tear-filled blue eyes. She looked exactly the same, except she could hear everything. A rabbit scratching beneath roots nearly 100 yards away. Water rushing beneath smooth river stones. The frantic heartbeat of every frightened villager hiding behind half-closed curtains. Her own breathing sounded impossibly loud. Then came the second heartbeat. Steady, powerful, waiting. It pulsed beneath her ribs like something alive that had slept for centuries. Evelyn. Elias approached slowly, careful not to startle her. His weathered hands, rough from decades of chopping timber, trembled more than hers. You haven't eaten. I'm not hungry. You've said that since dawn. She lowered her eyes. What if they're right? They're afraid. What if I hurt someone? The old man's expression softened. You've spent your whole life helping people. One strange night doesn't erase 21 years of kindness. She wanted desperately to believe him. A scream shattered the morning. It came from the northern edge of the village. Another followed. Then the unmistakable roar of something enormous crashing through the forest. The air instantly filled with the scent of blood. Every instinct inside Evelyn awakened at once. Not fear. Recognition. Run. The command echoed through every muscle. Villagers scattered toward their homes while hunters grabbed crossbows tipped with polished silver. Stay here, Elias shouted. But she was already moving. Her feet barely touched the ground as she raced between towering pines, faster than any human should have been capable of running. Branches whipped past her face. Cold wind tangled her hair. She stopped only when the trees opened into a narrow ravine. A massive black wolf stood surrounded by 6 armored hunters. Its silver-streaked fur was stained with blood. 3 arrows protruded from its shoulder. Yet the creature remained standing, shielding a wounded white stag trembling behind it. Finish it, one hunter yelled. It's one of them. Another arrow flew. Without thinking, Evelyn stepped into its path. The shaft struck a nearby tree instead. Every hunter froze. So, the captain muttered. Another wolf. I'm not. She raised both empty hands. Please stop. The black wolf slowly turned toward her. Its icy silver eyes met hers. For one impossible moment, neither of them moved. Pain, loneliness, exhaustion. She felt all of it. Not with her eyes. With her heart. The second heartbeat inside her chest answered his. Warmth spread through her fingertips. Almost instinctively, she took one careful step forward. No, the captain barked. It'll kill you. The wolf didn't move. It simply watched. Closer. Another step. Then another. Until only a few feet separated them. Evelyn could smell rain clinging to its dark fur, mixed with blood, pine, and something strangely familiar. Something that had drifted into her bedroom the night before. She slowly lifted one trembling hand. If you wanted me dead. Her voice barely rose above a whisper. I think you would have done it already. The wolf lowered its head. Not in surrender. Not in weakness. In trust. Her fingertips brushed its blood-soaked shoulder. The moment she touched the wound, brilliant golden light shimmered beneath her skin. The wolf flinched but did not pull away. Its breathing steadied. One broken arrow slipped free by itself. The bleeding slowed. Every hunter stared in stunned silence. What is she doing? No werewolf heals like that. The captain tightened his grip on his weapon. This isn't ordinary wolf magic. The wolf suddenly lifted its head. Its ears twitched toward the southern trail. A distant rhythm echoed through the valley. Hoofbeats. Not one horse. Dozens. Royal banners emerged between the trees, carried by armored riders dressed in deep blue cloaks embroidered with silver moons. At their center rode a young man upon a white stallion. He couldn't have been older than 26. His dark hair stirred gently in the mountain breeze, and although he wore simple royal attire instead of armor, every soldier unconsciously kept half a pace behind him. His calm silver-gray eyes swept across the clearing before stopping on Evelyn's hand resting against the wounded wolf. Time seemed to pause. The strange warmth inside Evelyn's chest surged again. Not because of the wolf. Because of him. The young prince held her gaze for only a heartbeat before quietly dismounting. No fear crossed his face. Only quiet recognition. As though he had spent years searching for someone, and had finally found her. The first lie Prince Adrian Ashford ever told Evelyn Carter was also the gentlest. I'm only passing through. The clearing remained silent long after his words faded into the mountain wind. Evelyn couldn't explain why her pulse refused to settle. She had never met the young prince before, yet standing beneath his calm silver-gray eyes felt strangely familiar, like hearing a forgotten melody from childhood. The wounded black wolf slowly stepped away from her. Its bleeding had nearly stopped. Without warning, the enormous creature bowed its head toward Adrian, not in fear, in respect. The gesture lasted only a heartbeat before the wolf disappeared into the forest, melting between the towering pines as silently as a shadow. None of the hunters noticed. They were too busy kneeling before the prince. "Your Highness." Every voice lowered in perfect unison. Adrian acknowledged them with a slight nod, his expression composed, almost distant. "You may rise." His voice wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. Authority seemed woven naturally into every word. Evelyn watched the soldiers obey without hesitation. Something about it unsettled her. Not because he commanded respect, because even the forest seemed to listen. The birds had stopped singing. The wind had softened. Even her restless second heartbeat slowed, as though recognizing someone it had always known. Adrian turned toward her. "You should leave this place." She blinked. "Why?" "Because others will come. The hunters." He hesitated. "No." His eyes drifted toward the deeper forest where ancient mist curled between enormous oaks. "They're far more dangerous." Before she could ask another question, one of the royal captains approached. "Your Highness, we've secured the northern trail." Adrian didn't even look away from Evelyn. "Good. The council expects you before sunset." "I know. The Queen Regent will not be pleased if you're delayed again." For the first time, the corner of Adrian's mouth lifted into the faintest smile. "She rarely is." The captain lowered his voice. "We've also received reports." Adrian's expression sharpened instantly. "What reports?" "Several Alpha patrols disappeared near the Black Hollow." "They found tracks." "What kind?" The captain glanced toward Evelyn before answering. "A newly awakened wolf." Silence settled between them. Evelyn instinctively stepped backward. "They're looking for me." No one answered. She already knew. Adrian looked at the frightened villagers gathering cautiously beyond the trees. "If she stays here," he spoke quietly, "they'll find her within days." Elias moved protectively beside Evelyn. "Then we'll hide her." Adrian gently shook his head. "You cannot hide someone whose scent has already awakened." Evelyn frowned. "My scent?" "The moment your wolf awakened, every dominant wolf within hundreds of miles felt it." The words drained the color from her face. "I never asked for this." "I know." His answer came so softly it almost hurt. For a long moment neither of them spoke. Then Adrian reached inside his dark traveling cloak. The royal guards immediately stiffened. Instead of drawing a weapon, he removed a small silver compass unlike any Evelyn had ever seen. Moonlight shimmered beneath the crystal covering its face, even though the afternoon sun still hung overhead. He placed it gently into her hand. "If it ever begins glowing." His fingers briefly brushed hers. "Run in the opposite direction." A strange warmth rushed through Evelyn's arm. Not painful, comforting. The same invisible current she had felt when their eyes first met. She looked down at the compass. The needle wasn't pointing north. It pointed directly toward Adrian. Neither of them seemed to notice. Or perhaps only one of them did. "You should keep this," she whispered. "It belongs to you. It knows where to find me." His quiet smile returned. "So I don't need it." The answer made little sense. Yet somehow it did. The captain cleared his throat. "Your Highness." Adrian nodded reluctantly. Duty was calling him away. He climbed back onto his white stallion with effortless grace. Before turning the horse, he looked at Evelyn one final time. "There is an abandoned watchtower beside Silver Lake." She frowned. "How do you know I've been there?" His expression didn't change. "I don't." Then why did he know the one place she had escaped to since childhood, whenever the world became too loud? He offered no explanation. With a gentle pull of the reins, the royal escort disappeared beneath the towering pines. Only after the last rider vanished did Evelyn realize something impossible. She had never told him her name. Yet before leaving, he had looked directly into her eyes and said, "Stay alive, Evelyn." A chill spread across her spine. She stared at the empty forest path, replaying every word. The prince had known her name. He had known her hiding place. And somehow, when his hand touched hers, The second heartbeat inside her chest had answered his as though the two had been waiting their entire lives to meet. 3 nights later, Evelyn Carter realized the prince had not been warning her about hunters. He had been warning her about wolves. Silver Lake lay hidden beneath a veil of drifting mist, untouched by villages or royal roads. The abandoned watchtower stood exactly where Adrian had described it, its crumbling stone walls wrapped in ivy that had claimed the place years ago. It had become Evelyn's refuge. During the day, she practiced controlling the strange power awakening inside her. At night, she listened. The forest spoke in ways she had never understood before. Owls argued across distant branches. Foxes slipped silently through the undergrowth. Even the lake carried a heartbeat of its own as gentle waves kissed the rocky shore. But tonight, everything was silent. Too silent. The second heartbeat inside her chest suddenly pounded against her ribs. Danger. Her wolf didn't whisper the warning. It roared. Evelyn sprang to her feet just as a silver arrow exploded through the tower window, shattering ancient stone inches from her head. Another followed. Then another. They found me. She dashed through the broken doorway, racing into the moonlit forest as arrows buried themselves in the trees around her. Don't let her escape. A deep voice echoed through the darkness. Alive if possible. Alive. The word frightened her more than death. They didn't want to kill her. They wanted her. Branches whipped across her face as she ran faster than ever before. The forest blurred into streaks of green and silver. Every leap carried her farther than any human should have managed. Yet the footsteps behind her never faded. There were too many. At least 10. No, 12. Their heartbeats surrounded her from every direction. They're hurting me, she realized. The realization came too late. She burst into a rocky clearing where towering cliffs blocked every path except the one she had entered. Waiting there stood 6 enormous wolves. Each was nearly twice the size of the black wolf she had healed days earlier. Gray, white, dark crimson. Every pair of eyes glowed with unmistakable alpha authority. One by one, they shifted. Bones cracked. Fur disappeared. Within seconds, 6 men and women stood before her, dressed in black ceremonial armor marked with silver crescent symbols. The oldest stepped forward. His long white hair moved gently in the night breeze. So, his amber eyes studied Evelyn carefully. The prophecy has awakened. I don't know what you're talking about. You will. His voice carried absolute certainty. You've already begun hearing the second heartbeat. Fear flashed across Evelyn's face. How do you know that? Because every alpha alive heard it with you. Behind her, the hunters emerged from the trees. Yet something unexpected happened. The armed men immediately lowered their weapons and bowed to the newcomers. They're working together. The realization struck like ice. The hunters had never been leading the chase. They had only been driving her toward someone else. The white-haired alpha extended one gloved hand. Come willingly. I won't. You have no pack. I don't need one. His expression almost softened. Every wolf belongs somewhere. Then I'll choose my own place. A faint smile crossed the alpha's face. You sound exactly as she did. Who? The last Moon Queen. Before Evelyn could respond, another voice echoed across the cliffs. Step away from her. Calm. Controlled. Impossible to ignore. Every alpha turned toward the ridge above. A lone rider sat upon a white stallion, outlined against the enormous full moon. Prince Adrian Ashford. He wore no crown, no armor, only a dark traveling cloak that moved gently in the wind. You've crossed into royal territory, Adrian said evenly. The council didn't authorize this hunt. The white-haired alpha folded his arms. With respect, Your Highness. His tone carried neither fear nor hostility. This matter belongs to the Alpha Council, and she belongs to no one. For the first time, Adrian's voice hardened. A tense silence settled across the clearing. Evelyn looked from one man to the other. Something felt wrong. The Alpha elders weren't speaking to Adrian as though he were merely a prince. They spoke carefully, almost cautiously, as if one careless word might carry consequences none of them wished to face. The white-haired Alpha finally inclined his head. We'll leave, but we will return. You always do, Adrian replied. One by one, the Alphas shifted back into their wolf forms and vanished into the darkness without another word. The hunters hurried after them. Within moments, only Adrian and Evelyn remained beneath the moonlit cliffs. She stared at him, her breathing still uneven. Why did they listen to you? Adrian looked toward the place where the wolves had disappeared. For a brief second, sadness flickered across his face. Then it was gone. They remember old promises. He offered no further explanation. Yet far beyond the cliffs, hidden among the trees, the white-haired Alpha glanced back toward the prince and quietly murmured to his companions. He can hide his crown from the girl, but no Alpha can ever mistake the voice of their true king. The first time Evelyn Carter laughed after her awakening, she almost forgot the world wanted to hunt her. It happened beside Silver Lake. Morning sunlight poured through the pine branches, scattering fragments of gold across the calm water as mist drifted lazily above its surface. Adrian had returned before dawn. No royal escort. No banners. No guards. Only the white stallion grazing quietly beneath the trees while its rider sat on a fallen log, carefully sharpening a small hunting knife. "You came back," Evelyn said. Without looking up, Adrian smiled faintly. "I said I was passing through. Passing through for 4 days? Perhaps I'm taking the long road." She couldn't help smiling. For the first time since the night everything had changed, the weight pressing against her chest eased. Adrian noticed. "I'm glad." She looked at him curiously. "What?" "That you're smiling." The words were simple, yet no one had spoken to her like that since her awakening. Not as a monster, not as a prophecy, simply as Evelyn. The days that followed slipped by almost peacefully. Adrian taught her how to breathe through the pain whenever her wolf tried to take control. "Don't fight it," he said as they stood barefoot on the lakeshore. "If you struggle against the wolf, it will struggle against you. And if I'm afraid, it already knows. So what do I do?" He stepped closer. "Listen." She closed her eyes. The wind brushed against her face. Water lapped gently against smooth stones. Birds called from distant branches. Then she heard it. The second heartbeat. Not violent anymore. Not frightening. Simply waiting. "It's quieter," she whispered. "Because you're finally listening." She opened her eyes. Adrian was watching her with quiet pride. Not the pride of a prince observing a subject. The pride of someone witnessing another person become who they were always meant to be. Later that afternoon, they wandered deeper into the forest gathering herbs. Evelyn laughed as a curious fox stole Adrian's leather glove before disappearing into the bushes. "I think you've offended him. I suspect he dislikes princes." "You told him you're a prince?" "I didn't have to." She tilted her head. "Animals seem to know you." "They usually do." Another answer that explained nothing, yet somehow raised even more questions. As sunset painted the sky with shades of crimson and amber, distant horns echoed across the valley. Adrian's expression changed immediately. "The moon gathering. What is that?" "Every full moon. The surrounding packs meet to settle disputes." "Can anyone attend?" "Not everyone." He hesitated. "But tonight, perhaps you should." The gathering took place inside an enormous stone amphitheater carved into the mountainside centuries ago. Hundreds of wolves, some in human form, others still carrying ears or glowing eyes from recent transformations, filled the ancient terraces. Evelyn had never imagined so many existed. The moment she entered beside Adrian, conversations faded. Dozens of eyes followed her. Some curious, some fearful, some openly hostile. Adrian remained calm. "Stay close." She nodded. At the center of the arena stood a massive circular platform engraved with silver moon symbols. One after another, Alpha leaders arrived from every direction. Each commanded immediate respect. Each radiated overwhelming strength. Yet something strange happened. Whenever Adrian walked past them, conversations paused. Older Alphas lowered their eyes ever so slightly. Some even stepped aside before he reached them. No announcement was made. No introductions. Still, no one blocked his path. Evelyn frowned. Why are they doing that? Doing what? They're moving out of your way. They're being polite. She looked again. This wasn't politeness. It was instinct. An elderly Alpha, broad-shouldered and scarred from countless battles, approached Adrian. Before speaking, the old warrior unconsciously placed his fist against his chest. A gesture Evelyn hadn't seen him offer anyone else. "Your Highness." Adrian inclined his head. "Elder Rowan. The council has nearly assembled." "I know." The elder's eyes briefly met Evelyn's before returning to Adrian. "There are those who question your continued interest in the awakened girl." "I expected as much." "They fear what the prophecy may become." Adrian's expression remained unreadable. They fear many things. The elder sighed quietly. And what do you fear? For the first time since she'd met him, Adrian didn't answer immediately. His gaze drifted toward Evelyn, standing only a few steps away. I fear arriving too late. Before she could understand what he meant, a deep ceremonial horn echoed through the mountains. Every conversation stopped. Every alpha turned toward the stone platform. Without a single spoken command, hundreds of powerful wolves instinctively straightened their posture. Evelyn expected Adrian to remain beside her. Instead, the crowd silently opened a clear path leading directly to the center of the arena. Not for any elder, not for any council member. For him. Adrian hesitated only briefly before walking forward. No one had invited him. No one needed to. As he crossed the ancient stones, every alpha lowered their head just enough to acknowledge his passing. No one spoke. No one questioned it. Evelyn watched in stunned silence. A prince should never command reverence from the strongest alphas alive. Unless he was far more than a prince. There are moments when the truth does not arrive like lightning. It arrives in silence. Evelyn Carter stood at the edge of the ancient amphitheater, unable to pull her eyes away from Adrian Ashford. The path through the gathered alphas remained open. No elder had ordered it. No herald had announced him. Yet hundreds of the strongest wolves in the kingdom had instinctively stepped aside. It wasn't respect earned by rank. It was recognition written into their blood. Adrian walked to the center of the stone platform with calm, measured steps. Moonlight spilled across the ancient carvings beneath his boots, illuminating symbols that seemed older than the kingdom itself. An elder struck the ceremonial staff against the stone. The moon gathering begins. One by one, disputes between neighboring packs were presented. Borders, hunting grounds, broken treaties, ancient feuds. Voices rose. Arguments erupted. Several alpha leaders nearly shifted in anger. Throughout it all, Adrian remained silent. He stood slightly behind the council, saying nothing, watching, listening. Then everything changed. A young alpha from the eastern mountains slammed his fist against the stone table. I reject this judgment. His growl echoed through the arena. My pack bows to no one. The air instantly became heavy. Power rolled from him like a storm. Several wolves shifted halfway, claws extending as tension spread through the gathering. Evelyn instinctively stepped backward. Her own wolf stirred uneasily beneath her skin. The elder council attempted to calm the furious alpha, but he ignored them. I challenge every decision made here. He pointed toward the council. You've grown weak. The arena erupted into chaos. Then Adrian spoke. Enough. He didn't shout. He barely raised his voice. Yet the single word crashed through the amphitheater with impossible force. Every growl stopped. Every argument vanished. The furious alpha froze mid-step as though an invisible mountain had settled across his shoulders. His breathing became uneven. Slowly, almost against his own will, he lowered his head. No chains restrained him. No guards moved. His body simply obeyed. A cold shiver ran through Evelyn. She had seen authority before. This was something entirely different. The elder beside Adrian closed his eyes briefly, almost as though he had expected this to happen. The gathering resumed. No one questioned what they had just witnessed, as if it were perfectly natural, as if everyone except Evelyn already understood. Hours later, the meeting ended beneath a sky overflowing with stars. The crowd slowly dispersed into the surrounding forests. Adrian found Evelyn waiting near the old stone staircase overlooking the valley. You've been quiet. She looked at him for a long moment before speaking. When you told him to stop, he remained silent. He couldn't move. Adrian glanced toward the distant mountains. He chose to stop. No. She shook her head. I saw his face. He didn't choose. A gentle breeze carried the scent of pine between them. Finally, she asked the question that had been growing inside her all evening. Who are you? For the first time since they had met, Adrian didn't answer immediately. Instead, he looked at the moon hanging high above the kingdom. When I was a child, he said softly, my father taught me something. Evelyn waited. He said crowns are easiest to wear when no one knows you're wearing one. She frowned. What does that mean? It means power should protect people, not frighten them. His answer sounded sincere, painfully sincere. Yet it wasn't the answer she had asked for. So you're hiding something. A faint smile crossed his face. Aren't we both? Before she could respond, footsteps echoed behind them. Elder Rowan approached alone. The old Alpha's weathered expression was unusually grave. "You're high." He stopped himself the instant he noticed Evelyn standing nearby. A flicker of realization crossed his face. He corrected himself immediately. "Prince Adrian." The hesitation lasted less than a second, but Evelyn noticed. "So," Rowan continued carefully, "the council requests your presence." "I'll come." "It concerns the throne." Adrian's eyes narrowed almost imperceptibly. "I understand." The elder inclined his head and disappeared into the shadows. Neither of them spoke for several moments. Finally, Evelyn turned toward Adrian. "The throne." He sighed quietly. "Royal matters never truly end." She searched his face. Every answer he gave seemed honest. Yet every honest answer somehow concealed an even greater secret. "I don't like being lied to," she whispered. His expression softened. "I know." "Then tell me the truth." Adrian stepped closer until only the cool night air separated them. "I want to." His voice carried genuine regret. "But if I tell you before the right moment." He lowered his eyes for the first time. "I may lose the one thing I've spent years searching for." Confusion filled Evelyn's face. "What are you talking about?" Instead of answering, Adrian reached into his cloak and gently placed his silver compass back into her hands. This time, the moon-shaped needle no longer pointed toward him. It spun wildly. Faster, faster, then stopped. Not toward the north, not toward the south. It pointed directly at Evelyn's heart. Adrian stared at the compass in complete silence. For the first time since she'd met him, the calm prince looked genuinely shaken, barely above a whisper. Words escaped his lips before he could stop them. "The moon goddess has already chosen." And in that single unguarded moment, Evelyn realized the secret Adrian had protected so carefully was no longer his alone. Sometimes the heart recognizes the truth long before the mind is willing to believe it. Evelyn Carter barely slept after leaving the moon gathering. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the silver compass. Its needle had pointed directly at her heart. Not north, not south, her. And Adrian's expression when he had whispered, "The moon goddess has already chosen." He had looked frightened. Not of her, for her. Before dawn painted the eastern sky, Evelyn left the watchtower and wandered toward the quiet shoreline of Silver Lake. The forest felt different again. Not hostile, expectant, as if every ancient tree already knew a secret she had yet to discover. She knelt beside the water and studied her reflection. The pale blue eyes staring back at her no longer belonged entirely to the frightened village girl she had once been. There was silver hidden within them now, a quiet strength, a wolf awakening not through anger, but through acceptance. "You found peace." Adrian's voice drifted gently through the morning mist. She turned to find him walking toward her alone, carrying 2 steaming cups of herbal tea. "You always know where I am." He smiled. "I've become good at searching, or you've never stopped." His smile faded ever so slightly. Perhaps she had come closer to the truth than either of them expected. He handed her one of the cups before sitting beside her on the smooth stones overlooking the lake. For several minutes, neither of them spoke. The silence wasn't uncomfortable. It felt earned. Finally, Evelyn broke it. "When I first met you." She looked across the shimmering water. "I thought you were simply kind. And now, I think kindness is the smallest part of who you are." Adrian lowered his eyes into his cup. "You give me too much credit." "No." She turned toward him. "I don't think I give you enough." The morning breeze carried the scent of pine between them. Before Adrian could answer, the peaceful silence shattered. A black hawk swept across the lake and landed on a nearby stone. A silver message tube was fastened to its leg. The bird bowed its head toward Adrian. Not toward Evelyn. Toward Adrian. He quietly removed the message. The royal seal had already been broken. Someone clearly expected him to read it immediately. His eyes moved across the parchment. The warmth disappeared from his face. "What happened?" Evelyn asked. He folded the letter without answering. "The council has made its decision." "What decision?" "They know about you." Her fingers tightened around the cup. "And they've ordered that you be taken into royal custody." Silence settled over the lake. Evelyn laughed softly. Not because it was funny, because it hurt. "So that's it." "No. They think I'm dangerous. They're afraid." "Isn't that the same thing?" Adrian met her eyes. "No, it never is." He stood and looked toward the northern mountains where the royal capital rested beyond the clouds. "I can still stop this." "How?" "I'll speak to them." She slowly rose to her feet. And if they refuse? He didn't answer. That frightened her more than anything. The second heartbeat inside her chest suddenly accelerated. Not from fear. From warning. Someone was approaching. Fast. A dozen riders burst through the trees moments later, each wearing the silver armor of the Royal Moon Guard. They dismounted in perfect formation. At their head stood Elder Rowan. His expression carried none of the warmth Evelyn had seen before. He bowed respectfully toward Adrian. Then he spoke words that seemed to wound him with every syllable. By decree of the Alpha Council, he unfolded an official scroll. The awakened wolf known as Evelyn Carter is to be escorted to the royal capital immediately. Evelyn stepped forward. I'll go willingly. No. Adrian's answer came instantly. Every soldier looked at him. Even Rowan hesitated. The council's order is clear, Rowan said carefully. It is. Adrian's silver-gray eyes never left Evelyn. But there is another law. The old Alpha slowly closed his eyes. Your Majesty. The words escaped before he could stop them. The entire forest froze. Every royal guard immediately dropped to one knee. Not one of them hesitated. Not one questioned the instinct. Evelyn felt the world stop turning. She stared at Rowan, then at the kneeling soldiers. Finally, at Adrian. He hadn't corrected the old Alpha this time. He hadn't denied it. The gentle prince who had laughed with her beside the lake. The man who had taught her to trust her wolf. The man she had slowly, hopelessly begun to love. Was never merely a prince. He was the Alpha King. Adrian closed his eyes for a single painful moment before opening them again. When he looked at Evelyn this time, there was no disguise left between them. Only truth. I wanted you to hear it from me, he whispered. I'm sorry the kingdom spoke first. The deepest betrayal is not discovering someone lied to you. It is discovering they lied because they were trying to protect you. The forest remained perfectly still. No bird dared sing. No wind disturbed the towering pines. Every member of the Royal Moon Guard stayed kneeling with their heads lowered, waiting for their king to speak. Evelyn Carter could barely breathe. The words echoed endlessly inside her mind. Your Majesty, Alpha King. Adrian had never denied it. He had simply hidden behind the title of prince, carrying the weight of an entire kingdom while pretending to be nothing more than a traveler who happened to lose his way. She looked into his silver-gray eyes, searching for the man she had laughed with beside Silver Lake. He was still there. Only now she also saw something else. Loneliness. The kind carried only by those who ruled everyone and belonged to no one. You knew, she whispered. From the beginning. Adrian nodded slowly. Yes. You knew what I was. Not everything, but enough. A painful silence stretched between them. You should have trusted me. I wanted to. Then why didn't you? His answer came almost too quietly to hear. Because kings rarely get a second chance. The words struck her harder than any accusation could have. She wanted to be angry. She wanted to walk away. Instead, she remembered every moment he had stood between her and danger. Every lesson, every smile, every quiet reassurance. None of those had been lies. Only his name. Elder Rowan finally rose from one knee. Your Majesty. His voice remained respectful. The council is waiting. Adrian didn't move. They can wait. The northern packs refuse to recognize the prophecy. They'll recognize the truth. They believe the awakened wolf will destroy the balance. Adrian turned toward the old Alpha. No. They fear change. Rowan hesitated. They've already gathered their armies. The words hung heavily in the air. Evelyn's heart tightened. Armies. The elder nodded. Several Alpha Lords have declared that the prophecy must end before the next full moon. They're coming for me. No one answered. No one needed to. Adrian stepped in front of her. No one will touch you. His calm certainty carried more strength than any shouted promise. Just then, the second heartbeat inside Evelyn's chest thundered with impossible force. Pain exploded through every nerve. She doubled over. Silver light burst beneath her skin. Evelyn. Adrian caught her before she struck the ground. Her breathing became ragged. The world blurred. She heard wolves howling from every direction. Not nearby. Across the kingdom. Hundreds. Thousands. Calling to something ancient. Calling. To her. The silver compass slipped from her pocket and landed on the forest floor. Its crystal surface cracked. Instead of breaking apart, brilliant moonlight poured from the fracture, surrounding Evelyn in a soft white glow. The guards instinctively shielded their eyes. Ancient symbols appeared beneath her feet, spreading across the earth like flowing rivers of light. Elder Rowan stared in disbelief. It can't be. The old Alpha slowly fell to both knees. The Queen's seal. Every Alpha present immediately followed him. Not before Adrian. Before Evelyn. She looked around in confusion. What are they doing? Rowan's voice trembled. The moon goddess has accepted you. The glowing symbols climbed gently around Evelyn's arms before dissolving into her skin. The unbearable pain vanished. So did the fear. For the first time since her awakening, the second heartbeat inside her chest no longer felt separate. It merged with her own. One rhythm. One soul. One destiny. Adrian watched her in complete silence. Wonder filled his eyes. Not because she had become stronger. Because the prophecy he had spent years searching for had never been about power. It had always been about choice. Evelyn slowly reached for his hand. I finally understand. He looked at her. You never wanted a weapon. No. You were searching for someone who could unite the packs. His fingers gently intertwined with hers. I was searching for someone. His voice softened. Who would remind this kingdom that strength without compassion becomes tyranny? A thunderous roar interrupted the moment. The ground shook violently. Smoke rose beyond the northern mountains. One of the royal scouts burst into the clearing on horseback, his armor covered in ash. He barely managed to dismount before collapsing to one knee. Your Majesty. Adrian steadied him. What happened? The Shadow Pack. The scout struggled for breath. Has attacked the capital. The western gates have fallen. The rebels claim they have uncovered proof. His shaking eyes drifted toward Evelyn. That someone inside the royal court has been betraying the Alpha King for years. The forest fell silent once again. Adrian slowly turned toward the distant capital, then back to Evelyn. For the first time since they had met, there was no wall between them. No hidden title. No secret. Only a king and the woman fate had chosen to stand beside him. And somewhere inside the palace, the real traitor was already waiting. The moon goddess never chose the strongest wolf. She chose the one who still believed mercy was stronger than fear. Smoke covered the royal capital like a storm swallowing the morning sky. From the highest ridge, Evelyn Carter watched flames climb the ancient stone walls that had protected the kingdom for centuries. Wolves raced through the streets below, not as enemies from another land, but as brothers divided by fear. The Shadow Pack had not come to conquer. They had come to tear the kingdom apart from within. Adrian Ashford stood beside her, no longer hiding behind the title of prince. The silver crest of the Alpha King rested across his dark cloak, catching the pale light of dawn. He looked every bit the ruler the kingdom had always followed. Yet his eyes searched only for Evelyn. Whatever happens inside those walls, he said quietly, stay behind me. She shook her head. I won't. This isn't your burden. It became mine the night you chose to protect me. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then Adrian smiled. Not as a king, as the man who had once pretended to be nothing more than a traveler beside Silver Lake. Together, they entered the capital. The city had become a battlefield. Broken stone covered the streets. Royal guards fought desperately against wolves wearing the black insignia of the Shadow Pack. Families hid inside shattered homes, while frightened children clung to their parents. Evelyn's heart ached. This was exactly what Adrian had feared. A kingdom ruled by fear instead of hope. At the center of the royal courtyard stood the leader of the rebellion, Lord Darius, the white-haired Alpha who had first called Evelyn the fulfillment of the prophecy. Around him stood dozens of powerful Alphas, their eyes burning with determination. You've arrived at last, Darius said calmly. His gaze shifted toward Evelyn. The Moon Queen. I'm not your queen. No. He smiled sadly. Not yet. Adrian stepped forward. This ends today. Darius nodded. It does. But not the way you imagine. He slowly removed an ancient silver medallion from beneath his armor. The royal crest. Broken neatly in half. Do you remember your father's final command? A shadow crossed Adrian's face. I remember every word. Then you remember he ordered the prophecy buried forever. Silence swept across the courtyard. Evelyn looked toward Adrian. You knew? He closed his eyes briefly. My father believed the packs would destroy themselves trying to control the Moon Queen. And were you wrong? Darius asked. Look around you. The burning city answered for him. Darius lifted the broken crest. Every war since then began because kings ruled through hidden truths. His eyes settled on Evelyn. The kingdom doesn't need another secret. It needs the truth. Before anyone could move, dozens of shadow wolves charged forward. Royal guards met them head-on. Steel clashed against claws. Howls echoed through the palace. Chaos consumed everything. Adrian shifted in a burst of silver light. An enormous wolf stood where the Alpha King had been only moments before. Majestic, powerful. His silver fur gleamed beneath the smoke-filled sky as he threw himself into the battle to shield both soldiers and civilians alike. Evelyn watched him refuse every chance to strike a fatal blow, even against those trying to kill him. Compassion, that was his greatest strength. And suddenly she understood why the moon goddess had chosen him long before she had chosen her. The second heartbeat inside her chest merged completely with her own. Moonlight burst from the heavens despite the daylight. Every wolf in the courtyard stopped fighting. The light surrounded Evelyn, flowing gently around her like living silk. She didn't transform through rage. She transformed through love. Silver white first shimmered into existence. Her eyes glowed with quiet radiance instead of fury. The moment her paws touched the palace stones, a gentle wave of light spread across the battlefield. The wounded stood again. The frightened found peace. Even the wolves consumed by hatred slowly lowered their heads as though awakening from a terrible dream. No command had been given. No enemy had been defeated. The violence simply ended. Lord Darius stared in disbelief before letting the broken royal crest fall from his hand. So that was the prophecy. Tears filled his aging eyes. It was never about who would rule. It was about who could heal. One by one, the Shadow Pack knelt. Then the Royal Moon Guard. Then every alpha in the courtyard. No one had ordered them. They bowed because hope had returned. Adrian resumed his human form and walked slowly toward Evelyn. Before thousands of wolves gathered within the royal capital, the Alpha King did something no ruler had done in generations. He lowered himself onto one knee. A royal attendant carried forward the ancient moon crown, forged from silver and white crystal centuries before. Adrian accepted it with both hands. He looked up into Evelyn's tear-filled eyes. I searched the world for the woman the prophecy promised. His voice carried across the silent city. I believed I was searching for a queen. He smiled gently. I was wrong. I found the heart that reminded a king how to lead. With infinite care, he placed the moon crown upon Evelyn's head. Moonlight flooded the capital. The bells of every tower rang together. Wolves throughout the kingdom lifted their voices toward the sky, not in war, but in celebration. Evelyn reached down and took Adrian's hand, lifting him gently back to his feet. There were no cheers, no triumphant cries, only peaceful silence. The kind that comes when a broken kingdom finally remembers who it was always meant to be. And beneath the endless silver moon, the Alpha King and the woman fate had chosen stood side by side, not because destiny demanded it, but because love had quietly led them there all along.